There are 4 exponential levers that allowed me to grow my agency past 100K a month and ultimately sell it. And notice how I said exponential levers instead of minor improvements. Most stuff that you see online is all about little hacks to get a little bit here and a little bit there. But over the 6 years that it took to build my agency and sell it, I learned that it's really down to these 4 things that actually move the needle forward. So lever number 1 is stop selling commodity offers. And what I mean by commodity offer is something that anyone can get anywhere else. If you sell Google Ads services, there are 10 million different Google Ads services, so you're selling a commodity offer. And in those markets, there's only 3 ways to compete. You can undercut the prices, you can increase the certainty of the desired outcome, so if you have more social proof or a really good track record, or you can just sell a superior offer. And congratulations if you chose sell a superior offer. So the key here is to improve your offer in ways that add disproportionate value with minimal to no additional cost or time to deliver. What you don't want to do is double the amount of work for the same price. We got to come up with ways that we can deliver more value in the same amount of time. Here is some offer boosters. We're trying to maximize the ratio between value and the cost of delivery. So on the left side, we're trying to increase that, and then cost of delivery, we're trying to decrease that as low as possible, ideally to 0. So here's some examples. The value, if you pay today, you also get access to a 2K course on Amazon ads. This is one we actually use at Kenji ROI. And the cost of delivery to that is almost nothing. Another example that we actually used, a keyword master spreadsheet. So this was a spreadsheet with all of the keywords that we used to create their Amazon listing. And we put it in a nice spreadsheet and just made the data nice and easily readable. And this took maybe 5 minutes for a VA to put this together because this was something we were already doing for them. So the value is much higher than the cost of delivery. A similar one we did was a research and insights report. Again, from stuff the team was already doing for the client. And you can also increase the certainty of outcome. I like to do this with a conditional guarantee. So you can give a full money back guarantee. Obviously, that's the best, but obviously people are going to take advantage of that. Some people will always just take advantage. So I prefer to do a conditional guarantee, which means that you guarantee a specific result if they meet certain requirements. So one we've done in the past is if your conversion rate doesn't increase by 5%, then you don't pay. And you must complete your onboarding within the first 72 hours. So this was put in there to eliminate the people who were just bad clients. They don't get back to us and they don't do what we say, and then they ask for a refund. Another one you can do is if we don't get you X results, then we work with you for free until you do. But you must be responsive to our messages within 24 business hours and give us access to your ads account. When you're coming up with a conditional guarantee, just think about what are the things that I will need in order to get them this result. And if they don't give me those things, then they don't get the guarantee. And I like this second guarantee because you're not giving them a refund in this guarantee. You're just saying, we're going to continue to work with you for free until you get the result. Now that brings us to lever number 2, which I like to call COMA, which stands for Compound Organic Marketing Assets. And this is how my agency, Kenji ROI, got consistent pre-sold lead flow so good, we had to stop marketing for 6 months after we grew from 50 to 100K a month in just 3 months. And here's an example. So this is from Google Search Console. This is the traffic that we're getting from our SEO. It's very consistent. So when we grew really fast there, we stopped marketing for about a 6-month period completely. And then after that, we were doing much less marketing. And as you can see, the amount of traffic from SEO didn't really drop. There was a bit of time in January, you can see there, where we had a site indexing issue. But once we addressed that, the impressions went straight back up to what they were before with a small fraction of the marketing. So unlike Instagram, for example, where your post is gone after 24 or 48 hours, never to be seen again, SEO, the work that you've done years ago, is going to continue to still bring you traffic. That's why we call it compound organic marketing. This is why most typical B2B marketing sucks. The strategy of cold email, for example, there's a really finite audience. There's not that many people in your target customer list. Like if you're targeting chiropractors, how many of them are there realistically? And then out of them, how many emails can you get of those people and actually get a hold of them? It's going to be a very small percentage of the actual total market. And then it's one and done. If you get in front of them with a cold email, you only have one chance. And if it doesn't work, they're never going to see you again. And then paid ads, also, it can work great, but it eats your margin. It costs a lot of money, and it's getting increasingly more difficult to make that work profitable. Referrals are great. They don't cost you anything, but they're not that scalable, and it's also really fragile. So if you have a really bad couple months where your team is really overloaded and your customer experience wasn't very good for those few months, your referrals can dry up really quickly. And cold DMs, so like sending DMs to people on Facebook and Instagram just completely cold, it's just got a very low success rate. It used to work a lot better, at least a few years ago. There's almost no barrier to entry, so everybody does that strategy. Whereas compound organic marketing assets are the opposite. So Google SEO, as an example, it has compound growth and it has momentum. So once you have some momentum, it's much easier to gain even more momentum, and then your old posts start getting traction, and people come to your old post, and then they click on your new post, and you just get that compound effect. And YouTube is kind of like the modern version of that. People consume YouTube a lot more now, and it has the exact same compound growth effect that Google SEO does. And an email list is another really great strategy. It's going to boost your organic assets. You can use it to drive traffic to your sales pages. It increases the effectiveness of all the other strategies as well. So if you're running ads or if you're sending cold emails, then Google SEO, YouTube, and email lists are going to make all of those strategies more effective because you're just keeping people in your ecosystem. One thing that's really important to note here is less than 1% of your target market is ready to buy right now. Your goal is not to close them immediately. It's to be omnipresent, so when they're ready, you are the default option. So here's an example of a typical agency acquisition model here. They send some cold emails, some cold DMs, some referrals. They can go straight to a sales call and get a close. If you send them to a video sales letter or sales page and they don't like it, then immediately you're marked as spam and they're gone. And they're probably going to have a low close rate because they're cold leads. Whereas the compound organic marketing assets strategy is a little bit different. So we still have the video sales letter and the sales call. We're still running the cold email and the DMs and everything like that. But they watch the video sales letter, and if they don't book a sales call right away, then you push them to your social media, your YouTube videos, your email list, your podcast, these things. And they stay in the ecosystem so that when they are ready to buy, you are the default option. So this makes your entire funnel a lot more efficient. And then also, the leads that end up on a sales call are much warmer because they know you, they've been listening to your podcast, or they've seen some of your content, and they're a little bit more familiar with you, so they have a much higher close rate on the sales call because they're not so cold. So that's the marketing side of things, getting the traffic. And lever number 3 is the setter and closer sales system, efficiently converting that traffic into paid clients. And this will typically increase the efficiency of your marketing and sales by about 300%. And I'm going to explain exactly how that works. This is why you need sales calls. Just to quickly contrast here, if you're not doing sales calls, if you're trying to close people just over email or on a sales page directly, then your close rate is going to be much lower than it could be. And to compensate for this, if you're a really, really good marketer, then you can handle all the objections through only the marketing. But to compensate for this, you probably need to have a lot of traffic. And then if you have a closer only without a setter, then you have the higher close rate. You can scale more even with a smaller amount of traffic, which is good. But definitely the best is the setter and the closer. Now you're also getting the most efficiency from your marketing efforts. And this allows you to scale with an even smaller amount of traffic because you're actually just that much more efficient. So here's what that looks like. If you're not doing any sales calls, then you probably have something like a video sales letter or a sales page directly selling the product. And these little blue things here are the people. And these people have different objections. Like person 1 has objection 1 and objection 3. Person 2 only has objection 2. Maybe this person has only this objection. So your video sales letter has a really difficult job of pre-handling all of the possible objections for all of the people. And if it doesn't do that, then you're just not going to get as many sales. And if you have a closer only, you're getting these people all onto a sales call. So the video sales letter only has to sell the person on actually getting on the sales call in the first place. So that's a much easier sell than selling them on something that costs hundreds or thousands of dollars. And then when you're on the sales call, your sales rep is the sniper. They dial in on exactly what the objections are of each individual prospect, and they can handle only those objections and then not bother talking about all the other objections. So it's much more accurate. Your close rate is going to go up a lot. And then finally, the closer and the setter. So it's the same as what we saw on the last slide, but the setter is now getting more warm qualified leads on more calls with the closers. So their job is to qualify warm leads, turn them into warmer leads, and then eventually get them booked on a call with the closers. So the key for the setter to work here is to get them to work on warm leads, not cold leads. You don't want them cold calling or anything like that. Warm leads are from places like on our website. If someone signed up for our email list, we would have an optional phone field. And if someone inputted that phone, then a setter would call them. And then once they're on the call, they would qualify them. If they're interested, we get them booked on a call with the closer. Now that you can imagine, this is very time consuming. That's why a setter is doing it instead of a closer, because it's much lower value prospects. And then they're working on these leads, which are much more likely to be qualified for a call with the closer. And lever number 4 is responsibility delegation. So this is about hiring the right people, assigning responsibilities, not tasks, so you can focus on the right things. And the order of delegation is very important. If you do sales first, that's one of the worst things you can do for your business, because sales is the most important thing that keeps your business actually running and keeps your employees paid. So why would you outsource that to someone who can screw it up, who doesn't really understand your business? The first thing you should outsource is the fulfillment, the actual client work. You should not be doing the actual work the clients are paying you to do. You should be working on things that are much more valuable. After fulfillment is outsourced, you should hire for operations and management, more managerial tasks, overseeing things, building systems, and things like that. And then you should outsource sales and scale your setter and closer marketing team. Setter and closer sales team, sorry. And then outsource your marketing. Now, depending on your skill set, you might want to switch the order of a few of these, but certainly fulfillment should be the first, and sales and marketing should be one of the last things that you hand off. So here are the 3 delegation phases from 0 to about 50K per month plus here. So phase 1, 0 to 10K a month. You're probably a one-person shop, or you have one virtual assistant or something like that. So 70% of your time is probably just doing the client work and fulfillment. 15% in operations. You're doing 7% sales and 6% marketing and 2% vision, only because all of your time is caught up in fulfillment and operations. And then phase 2, from 10 to 50K a month. This is where you have enough money to start hiring a team and help with some of these things. So ideally, you want to get your fulfillment down to 5%. Maybe you have to do some training and you refine your processes a little bit. So you probably do some fulfillment, and then operations is probably going to go up a little bit because you actually have to build these systems and systematize yourself and your team out of fulfillment as much as possible. And then the focus for you can go a lot more on sales, marketing, and vision. I mean, vision is going to be fairly small at this point because you just really have to focus on growth, sales, and marketing. And then phase 3, once you get to over 50K, you shouldn't be touching fulfillment at all, operations almost at all. You should have managers and people that you trust that are really good at their position that can just tell you how fulfillment and operations are going. And then sales is down to 5% or less because you have a sales team that's running and operating, and maybe you just need to check in with them and make sure things are going good. And in phase 3, you should be focusing almost all of your time on marketing and vision. In this case, vision is like, which direction is the company going? Are you going to grow into a much larger company and then you're going to have to scale up massive marketing campaigns? Are you going to expand into new services and new niches and things like that? The vision is ultimately where you're the most valuable as an entrepreneur. So some important points on that. You should invest your time and money in the leverage of delegated responsibilities. So that's a very common mistake when starting hiring people, is to just like keep assigning them tasks over and over again, but that just turns you into a manager of your own. It's much better to just hand off an entire responsibility. For example, you are responsible for the graphic design department, and that's it. So you don't have to keep delegating things to them. You can delegate the responsibility to them once and then train them and make sure they understand that. And then if something goes wrong there, that's their responsibility to figure it out. The other thing is that it takes way more effort to hire good people than you think. Commonly, I would make the mistake of hiring for like 2 weeks and go through whatever applicants came through in 2 weeks and do interviews, and then I'd be super tired of the whole job hiring process, and I would just take whoever was the best applicant within 2 weeks. But I've learned that it usually takes at least a month, sometimes 2 months or longer, to actually find a truly good candidate for the role. It takes way more interviews, way more applicants, like hundreds of applicants, and at least 15 or 20 interviews before I can find someone that's really good. So I just wish that I knew exactly how much effort it takes to find and hire a really good team member, because that would have saved me from a lot of bad hires along the way to 25 employees. And you're going to want to build a system for transparency and accountability. This could be something as simple as a Google Sheet, where each team member inputs specific metrics that everyone can see. And then it becomes easy for you to see, is this person underperforming? Are they overperforming? Should I give them a promotion? And are the most important parts of my business actually getting done? So nothing flies under the radar. You definitely want to invest in your team culture as well. So some ways that we did this at Kenji ROI, we would have a Friday games call where it was optional, but everyone could show up and play games, and they're getting paid for that, and that's just to build some team culture because we were a remote company for the most part. We did things like a graphic design competition where we had to Photoshop each other's faces onto like really weird themes. Like we did an alien themed one where everyone's photoshopping themselves onto like UFOs and other weird things, and that was hilarious, and it built a fun vibe with all the different team members. So those were the 4 levers that got my agency to 7 figures, guys. Lever number 1, stop selling commodity offers. Lever 2 was compound organic marketing assets, or COMA. Lever number 3 was the setter and closer sales system, and lever 4 was responsibility-based delegation. I have one bonus lever for you guys, which is to build an exitable agency. So if you build with the sale in mind, even if you don't want to sell, a sellable business is an automatable business. So you have the options of selling or automating it and just being a little more hands-off. To make your exitable agency, it has to not be reliant on you as a superstar. You have to be as hands-off as possible, empowering team members with responsibility-based delegation, having really good systems, having good compound organic marketing assets that keep bringing in new leads no matter what you're doing. The high-value marketing assets is another thing that's going to increase the value of your agency because they can immediately take those marketing assets and make their other company more valuable, for example. Finally, build relationships with potential buyers years before you need them. The buyer of my agency was actually someone that I knew 3 years before that I had on my podcast. Once I announced that I sold my company on Facebook, one of my other podcast guests reached out to me and said that I should have propositioned him to buy my agency as well. Building these relationships within your industry can be really valuable when it comes time to exit your agency.